Welcome to Smalls Talks Balls, presented by Champions Round. And now your host, Steph Smalls.
What is up, everyone? Smalls Talks Balls is back. I'm Steffi Smalls. We're going to keep going with this 32-team preview, staying in the NFC North. We did the Packers. Now we have to head over to the Detroit Lions, who I'm so excited to freaking talk about now that I live in Michigan, too. I also could possibly be their good luck charm. I've been to one Lions game, and they won. So, but to talk the Detroit Lions with me is Jeff Risdon, the managing editor of USA Today's LionsWire and co-host of the fantastic, if you have not checked out, awesome, the Detroit Lions podcast. Awesome podcast. How are you doing, Jeff?
It is good to be with you. Thanks for having me, and welcome to Michigan. We're happy to have you here.
Here I am. This is awesome, and especially when Detroit's kind of on the up now. This is exciting. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, find your work, and then we'll dive right into it. And we'll probably start talking some draft talk.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at LionsWire. USA Today is online. It's pretty easy to find, the LionsWire. Check it out. My Twitter is right there below me if you're watching this on YouTube. It's JEFFRISDON if you're looking for that. And the Detroit Lions podcast is available at DetroitLionsPodcast.com or on YouTube. Preferably stream it. It's a lot more fun when you watch us. It just is.
It's a blast. They drink blue margaritas and the whole 9 yards. It's depending on the day, I'm sure.
We have a little fun with it, yeah.
It's good times. It's definitely worth checking out. And this is a fun. It hasn't always, not always, but the last couple years hasn't been the most fun team to talk about all the time. But it's getting fun. And I remember this was distinctly right when I started out. I was like, I don't know, these Lions, Stan Campbell, there's something to watch out for here. And I think that this draft kind of solidified the idea that I had. I think that in this draft, they gave clarity, to where, the direction of this team and their intent and which, the way they're going. And I think you could argue that was a pretty franchise defining draft. What were your takes on the draft, and what would you say as far as the way the draft went?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think they wanted to establish an identity and the culture that Dan Campbell and GM Brad Holmes are trying to create. And they took a lot of guys that fit what they want to do. They wanted dynamic football players, guys who eat, sleep, breathe football. Kneecap biters, to harken back to Dan Campbell's initial thing. You don't get a bigger kneecap biter than Aiden Hutchinson and the way that he plays the game. He's a great fit. Look, they obviously have to get better at the pass rush. He's a great start for it. Is he going to be the number one pass rusher out of this draft? Maybe. He could be. But he does everything else so well. And I think that's part of what this draft encompasses, is that they wanted to get guys who can impact the game in more than just one way. He can play standing up. He can play with his hand in dirt. He can play 3-tech if they want to move him inside. So many different things that they can do with him. Then they got aggressive, and that's one of the things that they want to be known for, is being aggressive. Getting Jameson Williams with the number 12 pick, moving up from 32 and 34 to get that. That is a defining move that says we have to get better on offense. We need ballers. And Jameson Williams is a baller. Anybody who's watched Alabama play knows that. He's the fastest guy in the draft, even though he didn't get to run because he's got the ACL. They're okay with him missing a month. Maybe if he doesn't come back, we'll see how that goes. So far, I tell you what, he looks really good right now. He thinks he's going to be ready for the start of the season. Whether they let him go or not is a better question. But my goodness, it's this team. The number one thing that they needed going into the season wasn't necessarily a position. They needed impact talent. They got two of them in the first round, and that just it elevates everybody else around those guys. Like what Jameson Williams does, he helps TJ Hawkinson be a better tight end. He helps Amon-Ra St. Brown be a better wide receiver. He hopefully helps Jared Goff become a better quarterback. I'm very thrilled with it. And then to move on in the draft, getting a guy like Josh Paschal in the second round, really good pass rusher. He fits what they want to do. And again, he can play multiple spots along the defensive line. They're switching to a 4-man front, but they're going to play some 3-man front. He can be one of those pieces that moves around. He's sort of like the understudy for Michael Brockers, who's a great example of what you can do with that as a guy who can sort of facilitate for Aaron Donald for all those years in Los Angeles. Comes to Detroit, didn't have a great year, but he still offers quite a bit. Yeah. And it brings impact depth. Kirby Joseph, instant starter as a 3rd-round draft pick at safety. One of the best coverage safeties in the draft. Where was the biggest weakness on this defense? Safety. They address it. So I'm very thrilled with the draft. I'm very happy with the direction that they pointed.
Yeah, and I think you could look into it. Like, this was before, last season started. And even as the season progressed, it's like, this isn't a bad football team. They're competitive.
Right.
They're staying in games. They're playing for their coach. Their defense is looking less Matt Patricia-y by the day. But that was kind of the problem was, their defense was falling a little short in those games. And I think it came down to, right, like, it's a good football team, but they just need more good players. Like, as simple, you can make it as simple as that. They needed depth. And there was areas on that roster that were thin. And I'll jump right into the wide receiver room because I think, there's questions around that. Fantasy football wants to know if St. Brown's, how big his role is going to be and what that look like. Wide room, it's been quite thin. It reminds me, honestly, of my New York Giants a little bit, where the expectation from guys that are not number 2s and are not number 3s, and they should be down at 4, at 5. Now you can take that pressure off and they can do what their role should have been from the very start. You look at Khalif Raymond. What was he? The number 2 for how many?
He started for half the year.
We're talking about a guy that he's not even going to touch being a number 2, even let alone a number 3 next year, because you have, they bring in Shark, you have St. Brown still. So talking about the wide receiver room and what this is going to look like next year, and Jameson, you look at this team, they're doing it, they're looking at the big picture here. Okay, you don't have him for a couple weeks, fine. He would have been in the conversation, in my opinion, at 2, maybe even if he didn't get hurt. Are they looking to maybe even take him that high? So talking about this wide receiver room.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a good point there. Everybody's going to be where they belong in the depth chart. Khalif Raymond is not a number 2 wide receiver. He's a great guy. He has a purpose. I think he's going to wind up being a very good punt returner and kick returner. And I think that's probably all you'll see of him in Detroit in 2022. And that's where he belongs. He's a number 4, number 5. He's so small. It's tough to find. Yeah. He's 5'8". He's got the narrowest hips of any NFL player I've ever seen outside of Tariq Cohen. It's difficult to play that way. And he was your primary target because Tyrell Williams didn't work out. Brashad Perriman really didn't work out. That was rough. That was rough to watch.
Those are rough times. Those are dark times. We're on to brighter times in Detroit. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So all that's gone. So now you got DJ Shark on one side. Amon-Ra St. Brown can play in the slot. He can play outside, move him around a little bit. They have Quintez Cephas coming back. We'll see how much of a role he played well last year before he got hurt. Josh Reynolds came in late in the season, established some chemistry with Jared Goff, sort of raised both of them. He's back. You add Williams in. You've got a good wide receiving room now. You went from arguably the worst in the NFL to, I don't want to say that they're near the top, but they're certainly in the middle. And I think that's a pretty big step. And if Williams is what we think he can be, they can be better than that. St. Brown was one of the top 3 receivers in the league over the last 4 weeks of the season. Once they figured out where he was at his best, once they opened up the offense a little bit, once they got rid of Anthony Lynn, let Dan Campbell start calling the plays on his own, it really did open things up. And my goodness, and then you got Hawkinson, you got DeAndre Swift coming out of the backfield, one of the best receiving backs in the league.
It keeps getting better, and the more you talk about it, it's like,
I know.
Crap. As much as everyone wants to knock the Lions, it's like you start looking at it, you start talking about it, it's like, okay, that's fine. And now we can go into it. Now let's talk about DeAndre Swift, right?
Yeah.
Even Swift himself, he's still, the numbers he put up, even missing the games he did, he's fantastic. He's a great talent. He's another, just addition to this offense that already is starting to look like, you're adding players. And I love this when teams are able to do this, where they elevate each other. They take pressure off where they need to take pressure. They highlight each other's talents, and that's the way it should be. And that some teams struggle with that very obviously, but the Lions kind of are starting to figure it out. So with Swift, and who the hell is the RB2 there? Is Williams? What's going on there? Is someone gonna come out of camp, or what's going on?
That's going to be one of the camp battles to watch, because they do like Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams played pretty well last year. He was the better runner than Swift was, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Swift, much better receiver out of the backfield. Swift, if he ever learns to attack the hole that's in front of him, he's going to be really good. But he has way too many times where he's running into he'll run into his right guard's ass. He'll run into the back of the tight end. He does that way too much. You can see that the talent's there, but he does have to get better at that as a runner. But as a receiver, my goodness, The idea of him like running Texas routes and little dump off passes and screens behind the team that they've got, and the offensive line's phenomenal. It's really exciting. It's going to be it is a season where Swift has to prove that he can stay healthy and does have to prove that he can have a little bit better field vision. But it's there for him. And Williams is coming back. You've got Jermar Jefferson, 7th round pick last year. Looked good. Looked good in camp. Looked good when he did get a chance to play. He was inactive most of the season. Craig Reynolds came from out of nowhere.
Right? 4 yards to carry last, not bad.
He was great in the preseason, was great when he was given a chance. He tailed off a little bit at the end of the year, but if you're your number 4 running back, like they're good. They're a legit good running team. And to your point, you can see how this team it's smartly assembled. They don't have a lot of guys that do the same thing. They have a lot of guys that do complementary things.
Yeah.
It reminds me of how the Bengals are set up and how the Vikings have been set up, and that they have different guys that do different things that play off one another really well. It's smartly conceived, and that's not something that we're used to in Detroit. That's why I'm excited, because we've seen for too long, it's just banging your head in frustration. It's like, my God, why aren't these guys better? You see now that there's like a vision for how they're going to get better, and they're executing it. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm excited to see it try.
Yeah. I mean, the Lions haven't finished outside of 4th in the NFC North in 2017 maybe was second. I think you got 9 wins, and then after that, I think 5 maybe knocked you off at the tip there of the best you could get. But I think that they're in a good spot. And the nice thing is for these teams that are I don't want to say rebuilding, because I actually don't Detroit is rebuilding in a different sense. I think you could have used that word maybe a little bit more last year, but I think they're in a place where they're going to surprise people. It's a more well-rounded team than they were
definitely
the year prior. And the luxury is, if you haven't heard, the NFC is not the strongest, and the NFC North plays the NFC East. So we're talking about, 2 divisions that are not very strong. And as much as I want to, I'll get into Goff towards the end here, because I imagine that sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating for some people. But let's talk about the NFC North and where the Lions fit into this picture. What does it take for them? Because I think, which again, everyone can go crazy over. I don't think a wild card spot for the Lions, if they put everything together, Goff does what he needs to, Swift stays healthy. Why is that crazy? To me, that's not crazy, actually.
It's not crazy because you haven't lived in Michigan for long.
That's true. I just got here. I went to one Lions game. I saw them win, and they got their first win, and now I'm like, they're going to the Super Bowl. No.
So they have potential, and if they stay last year they had a ton of injuries all on both sides of the ball. I mean, they were starting their number 7 cornerback midway through the season. He wound up actually being really good. Jerry Jacobs, great guy, played very well as an undrafted rookie. Was the best undrafted rookie at any position in the league. But you're asking a lot when you're doing that. And I think if they get the luck, remember, they lost 2 games last year. They lost to Justin Tucker on the 66-yard field goal as time expired. They lost the game in Minnesota when Greg Joseph hit the longest field goal of his life by 5 yards as the buzzer went off. So they went 3-13-1, but really, several of those losses, there were a couple other games where they were right there at the end, and it just didn't bounce their way. So if they're getting those bounces, they're creating takeaways, which is a big emphasis for defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. They're committing less of them, being more efficient in the red zone. They do have the ability to win 9, 10, maybe 11 games, but things really have to go well for all that to happen. They still do have a limit in talent. I think there's a limit on how high Jared Goff can take them. Yeah. I think that's higher than some Lions fans think. He's a very divisive figure. This. Jared Goff's a very divisive figure. There's still questions on the defense. This was a defense that gave up way too many yards too easily. They were last in the league in tackling. They had, just didn't create interceptions the way they needed to, other than Amani Oruwariye. There are questions, but at minimum, this is a better team than the Chicago Bears, and it's not often that I've been able to say that. And I've been around football a long time. I've been in Michigan since 2002.
The Lions have been through it. These poor people deserve some wins.
And they're going to be better. They're going to win more games this year than last year. Obviously, I can't fathom them not winning 5 or 6. I went through and you have to do the schedule game when it comes out. I got them to 7. it was really hard not to get them to 8 and like 8 and 9 for this team from where they've been, from what Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn did to this team. That I'll take that.
Yeah.
And yeah, but you're right. They do have the potential to get higher than that. Like the NFC North, the Bears are vulnerable. I'm going to say that this is one of the weakest Bears teams that I've seen. And I say that, and I'm a card carrying. I love Justin Fields. I think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be great with the group that they got around him.
Yeah.
Minnesota's defense, their offensive lines, like it's young. It could be good, but it could not be good. And, that kind of scares me. And, I'm sitting here. I live in the hometown of Kirk Cousins. He's a celebrity here. He's going to be, our representative in the state assembly someday. I'm not going to badmouth him, but he needs more help than what he gets. Like they've got really impressive weapons, but I can see where they're vulnerable too. Packers, forget about it. Packers are the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. As long as number 12 is going, as long as anybody can catch the ball, and I think they might have somebody that can catch the ball. Hopefully, I don't know. They're going to miss Devontae Adams a lot, but that defense. I don't think Green Bay's defense gets enough credit. So that's a real tall order. But being 2-3 wins higher than the Bears, challenging the Vikings and possibly passing the Vikings for second place, that's very realistic for this Detroit team. It really is. And people who know me know I'm not sunshine and rainbows guy. I'm not the Kool-Aid guy. I really do think that they have improved in a lot of areas where they needed to improve. They still need more. But the arrow's pointing so far up. It's been a long time since we've been able to say that.
It's so cool. It's just like, and I try not to talk about the Giants too much, but I bleed it. It's what I know very well, and they remind me of the Giants, how we ended that first year under Joe Judge, where staying in every game, roster looks pretty good. They blew it in the draft, and then kind of the cookie crumbled the way it did, but. The Lions are doing everything right. Like the Lions are the direction that I wish the Giants had gone that second year under Joe Judge. They obviously failed to do that. It did not happen. But I think something too with this Lions team is that D-line. There is a lot of potential there. And this is not, I think everyone is still so stuck on Matt Patricia's defense. This is not the same this isn't your mama's like defense. You know what I'm saying? Like
Thank God.
It's not Matt Patricia's defense.
That was painful to watch. The rocket scientist didn't know football very well. And it's interesting that he's not coaching the offensive line in New England. By the way, week 5 in New England, you better believe that every Lion who played under Matt Patricia is gunning for that game. That's going to be one. They're not on primetime at all. That's a game that should get flexed to primetime. I know they can't do that early.
I'm thinking the Lions money line just because I have to. It's in my.
I would definitely encourage that. Yeah, the defense, like Aleem McNeil. Nobody talks about him. He was phenomenal last year as a rookie. This is a guy at 315 pounds. He was a center fielder for his baseball team. Like this guy, he's lithe. He can move. He's a good player. And a kneecap biter, a tone setter up front. Got to get more out of Levi Onwuzurike, the second-round pick last year. He was a big disappointment. He was hurt. I'm hopeful, but not counting on him being better. But, the potential's there. Hutchinson coming in, Paschal coming in. You still got Brockers. Romeo Okwara could be coming back, hopefully, from his Achilles. This is a guy that got 10.5 sacks in 2020 with no schematic help whatsoever. So, his brother Julian is he's a straight pass rusher. He can't play the run. I'm not sure he knows how to play the run. I'm not sure he knows that they run the ball, but he's like he can do things. Like he's got some juice. They drafted James Houston in the 6th round. That's a guy from Jackson State, formerly at Florida. He can do some things. They have potential to be a lot better. I do need to see it, and I need to see how that's all going to fit together with the new scheme that they're working up and everything.
Yeah.
It'll be better, but I'm not sure how much better. And that's sort of like the governor between getting 7 wins and getting 10 and 11 wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it's a guy that obviously is going to, I don't want to say dictate that because I think a lot of the NFL, a lot of the fans of the NFL want every team to have a Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, but it's not the way that it goes. I have watched Eli Manning win me 2 Super Bowls, so I get it. I think you can win games with different types of quarterbacks. I understand the league is that way. So we have Jared Goff. Not everyone loves Jared Goff. But I think what the nice thing is they put Jared Goff in a nice position where I think he can be pretty successful. He can get the job done. And that's really all you need from him. His interceptions were down fairly low back to, I think, his first 2 years. He had 7, and then he had 8 this past year. And in between, there was a lot more. You saw what he was able to do when he had a little bit more weapons. Now you've given him that. He has a nice O-line. And here's the thing, right? Like, if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You guys gave up none of your draft picks. You have 2 first rounds. So guess what? You just go out and you take him and then it gets better, because if you don't want to take a quarterback, which fine, don't take a quarterback, there probably will be at that point a quarterback that you can pick up and bridge gap again if you want to, and maybe not even be as big of a bridge gap as you think.
Yeah, and that's the last couple of years in the NFL with all the quarterback movement and Goff being part of that has shown that you do have who would have thought that Russell Wilson would be available for trade? Like, it's a new era. There's going to be guys that are available. Ryan Tannehill is going to be out there potentially. Baker Mayfield looming large in a lot of places. He has the guy who drafted him is in Detroit's front office, John Dorsey, right now. So yeah, there are veteran options. There are certainly draft options that are more appealing than this year. Although I'll tip my hand early. I love CJ Stroud. I think he's going to be great. I'm not that crazy about the rest of the guys. I got to watch more of them, but I'm not there with Bryce Young or Yurkovich or some Richardson, some of the other guys. I need to see more from them before I'm buying into that. But yeah, the thing is, it is now set up for Jared Goff to do or die. Like this season is a memorandum on Jared Goff. If they're good, he will be good enough and they can keep him. And then you've got 2 first-round picks to keep building what you're building. If not, you've got a solid core. Look, the offensive line is really, really good. Some people are going to quibble with right guard and Halapoulivaati Vaitai. He's a solid player. He's overpaid. I get that. He's good at what he does. Frank Ragnow coming back at center, one of the best centers in the league, one of the best young players in the league. He missed almost all of last year. Guess what? They plugged in Evan Brown, scrap heap from the Browns and from the Giants. Was a perfectly serviceable starting center. Now he's their depth. Like they've got pieces, man.
It's so awesome. Like that's why I'm like, Giants, are listening? Like this is what you needed to do. This is the way that you rebuild, and it doesn't have to take 7,000 years the way that some teams do it. Like there is a way to go about it. And I said, even when that Goff trade happened, I didn't think it was the end of the world, because you got this capital. You're in a spot where let's actually look at this roster. What do we need? How do we build? Like, what do we do with what we have? What picks we have? And I think they're in that spot too next year. So yeah, again, and also like Jared Goff is again serviceable. You put him in a spot.
The way he finished the season, the last 4 games that he played, he was a top 5 quarterback. Yeah. The 12 games that he played before that, he missed 2. So 11 games that he played before that, he was one of the 5 worst. And finding the balance in between, like this team that's built around him, if he's the 16th best quarterback in the league, they're going to be pretty good. Like if he's 20th, they're going to be, I don't know. But if he's better than 16th, then yeah, this team could sniff the playoffs. Can he do that? Maybe. Like we saw glimpses of it. He's got to start attacking more down the field. His yards per attempt is atrocious. Even when it was going well at the end of the season, he was still making look. They have really good yak guys, and they play to that. Swift, St. Brown. I think Jamo's going to be like that too. But he's going to have to take some shots down the field. That's what Shark is here for. That's what Jamo is going to do when he gets out on the field. That's what Hawkins is going to do. They're going to have him running deeper routes, in theory, anyways. And if Goff is up to the challenge on that, like the weapons are there, the protection is going to be there. It's set up for him to succeed, and it's on him. If he's the guy that he was early on in Los Angeles before he had the falling out with McVay, before McVay lost his confidence in him and jerked him around a little bit. McVay's not innocent in that party either. Obviously, he was right to make the choice that he did, but there's a redemption angle for Jared Goff, and I think we're going to see that on Hard Knocks. I think that's going to be one of the storylines that they play up when HBO is in Detroit filming Hard Knocks. Yeah. And I like it. Like Goff there's just enough with Jared Goff that I can't say that he can't do it. But I do need to see him do it before I'm bought in on it. I think that's probably the best way to say where I'm at with it.
Guys are so, there's a couple, even like Goff, he's coming off his best completion percentage year, right? But no one looks at stuff like that. Like it doesn't matter. It's Jared Goff. He stinks. He's too inconsistent. But I think some of these quarterbacks You have to baby them, almost not baby them, but it's like a little bit of like hand holding, like where, everything needs to be perfect. And I get that's not what you want in the NFL. And I understand that.
And
but
he's better than that. Like he's better than
yeah, exactly. He's not
Davis Mills is in that bucket. Drew Lock is in that bucket. He's
Goff
above
is a
that
winning
bucket.
quarterback. He did that, and people forget that. He took them where, right? Like, we forget what Goff was able to accomplish.
And some of that is because there's no sugar. He was rotten early last year. There's no denying it. Now, some of that was the offense. Some of it was Anthony Lynn's offense. It was just so easy to see what was coming for the defense. And Goff he's not a guy who's going to like transcend the talent that he's at. He's going to be a product of what he's got.
Yeah.
Now that he's got better, he's got to get better too. But we've seen the better Goff. Like you go back to the last game that he played in Los Angeles, that playoff loss that they had. He was the best player on the field for the Rams in that game. He just didn't happen to be good enough, and the rest of the supporting cast wasn't there. Like if that Goff comes back, this could be a really good team. I'm not counting on that Jared Goff to come back, but I'm not counting it out either. And look, we've lived through a lot in Detroit. I go back to like Gary Danielson, he's going to be the answer. I remember that when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. I was a huge Billy Sims fan, and my number 20 jersey for the Lions is Billy Sims. It's not a throwback. It doesn't fit anymore, but it's I'm ready for this team to finally have like positivity, things break our way instead of like Justin Tucker hitting that field goal or Aaron Rodgers completing a pass because Jim Caldwell has Ezekiel Ansah playing center field when he should be rushing. There's just so many stupid things, stupid ways this team has lost games. I'm ready for them to stop being stupid. And I do think that they have the right regime in place to not be stupid anymore. And that is very encouraging for me.
And I'll tell you that game I went to. So I was there when they got their first win. They beat the Vikings and the fans and you felt like the joy just come over you because it was to a point where they're like, they're not winning this game. Like everyone's joking. They're cheering for the Vikings at this point. And I'm like, this is so sad. They're like, oh, we're used to it. No big deal. The guys it was a disaster. I felt horrible because I'm like, this sucks. Like this team deserves better. These fans deserve better. And then they won. And it was like, you felt how happy everyone was and how electric that stadium got and how much they appreciate it because it's like how much you've been through and you're in a spot now where, again, even with Goff, it's kind of like, okay, if he is like, great. If he isn't, fine, because we're still in a good spot. So let's think about 3 years from now. What's like the 3-year, 5-year plan for this team? Can they get to a point with, we don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. We'll see if the Vikings can pull things together. Bears, I think, are a little bit farther behind. Can they get to a point where they're at the top of this division?
They can. They are in a good spot to jump when Green Bay fades, when they're turning it over to Jordan Love, who just hasn't looked all that good. He didn't look good against Detroit in the finale. Mm-hmm. They are in a very good spot to seize that. I do think that, Minnesota's not going to go away. I love their new general manager. I also cover the Cleveland Browns. I'm from Cleveland originally. I'm a big Kwesi fan. I think he's going to do good things there. But the Lions did get the better of him in that draft trade. And I'm happy about that.
I was going to say they put on a master class there.
Yeah, they did.
Very nice.
Did. That was welcome to the league, rookie. And they have the potential. Look, they've won one playoff game in the Super Bowl era. It was 1991. They had some phenomenal teams in the 90s. Yeah. Look, I didn't even get to see that game, and that's the most frustrating thing. I was in college at the time. I was at work. I didn't even get to see it. I've never seen their playoff win. I'm old enough where I deserve to see a playoff win, and they can get one. This year is really ambitious. Next year, if they hit on their draft picks, if they stay smart, they don't. One of the nice things, they haven't blown the bank on any bad free agents, and I think that's. Your Giants have not exactly.
Oh well, I mean, we're going to be paying for Gettleman until like the end of. Hell knows that's going to be.
Yeah, so that's one of the nice things is that Brad Holmes has not paralyzed them with bad signings, but they do need to get a couple more good signings in there to make sure that they're in that position to take advantage when Rodgers eventually does leave. I assume he will leave eventually. I hope. God,
Yeah.
he can't play forever, right?
Right. Hopefully not. I mean, Brady is kind of proving us wrong in this maybe like immortal situation. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think Rodgers, he will head out at some point if they can stop, losing in the playoffs, maybe get him a little bit further so we can get him out. But if you were to say, and I'll start wrapping things up here, what do you think could be this team's Achilles heel next year? Like, what could totally get them back to just 3 wins?
Goff, we talked about. I do think that the defense, specifically the middle of the field defense, they're still thin at safety. Look, I like Kirby Joseph. I'm glad they brought Tracy Walker back. It's still not great. The linebackers are not. Look, they're not as bad as Lions fans will have you believe, but they're not good. Like, no doubt about that.
A nice linebacker that's a little underrated, though. Right in the draft, who was that?
Malcolm Rodriguez is a guy to really root for. Look. Chris Spielman was my personal football hero. Growing up in Northeast Ohio, I was exposed to him. My Ohio State jersey is Chris Spielman. I have a Lions jersey that's Chris Spielman. I love the guy, and I'm glad that he's back with the team. Malcolm Rodriguez plays the way that Chris Spielman played. He's not that good. He's not that guy, but you can see why the Lions were attracted to him, and he could be a pleasant surprise as a rookie. Look at Oklahoma State. He racked up tackles. He's one of those guys. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com said it best. He just has the best radar for where the ball is going to be of any linebacker in this draft class. And it's absolutely true. You watch him play, he just knows where the play is going. And that's something, look, Alex Anzalone, nice guy, great hair, not a great linebacker. Like I wish he was better, but he's not. They're trying Chris Board. Like it's just not impressive. So the defensive line is not dynamic enough to make up for that. So teams that can protect the passer and attack the middle of the field are going to have some success. I do think that the outside corners, Jeff Okudah is a huge question mark if he comes back and plays anything close to being the number 3 overall pick in the 2020 draft. They're going to be solid because Arwariye is a ball hawk. Jerry Jacobs, when he comes back from his knee, he's a baller. They signed Mike Hughes. He's sort of insurance, inside, outside. I prefer him outside. They do have slot corner questions. That's something that's going to have to get addressed. It could be Ifeatu Melifonwu. It could be, they drafted Chase Lucas in the 7th round. I'm not a huge Chase Lucas fan, but he deserves a shot. Right. AJ Parker played there as an undrafted. Like, they're vulnerable. That they still need, like, we talked about on offense, how they put guys in the depth chart positions where they are. On the defense, other than the line, everybody's still probably a spot too high. And that's going to be tough. They have 3 kickers. That's been an issue. We got so spoiled going from Jason Hanson to Matt Prater. And now
that's
we're
all
like,
you got, all right? So be thankful for some things at least.
Yeah, we've always had good kickers. So they do have a big hole at return man. We're going to see who winds up with that. So there are vulnerabilities. They are still a fairly young coaching staff. Dan Campbell still learning the intricacies of play calling in the game. I think he got better as the year went on. But again, they have a rookie offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson. They've got some work to do. But again, the arrow is certainly pointing up. To expect them to make the playoffs is probably asking a little bit too much. But certainly at least double their win total. They had 3.5 last year. They can get to 7 this year.
They could definitely no question about that wild card spot. I'll tell you that. And I think staying optimistic for this team is they're just in a good spot, I think, overall. And I think on defense, where there are some weaknesses, it's a lot of raw talent. So how can you develop that into something? And then again, we start talking about next year. Is it that maybe you just go and get a vet and you use those 2 picks to keep adding depth now to the other side of the ball and put yourself in a good position? So let's leave it with this is what player do you are you most looking forward to going into next year?
So there's quite a few. I am really excited.
We can do a few.
I'm excited about TJ Hawkinson. I think he is going to be one of the best tight ends in the league. I think the NFL is going to learn how good he really is, because he has had to be sort of the alpha dog, and now he doesn't have to have all that on his shoulders as a receiving tight end. I think that's going to help his overall game a lot. He's a very talented guy. He's hungry. I'm looking forward to that. He's also sort of playing for his next contract. Look, they picked up his 5th-year option, no brainer, but you can get that extension early. I think he would like that. I think the Lions would like that. So he is one. Defensively, I brought him up. It's weird to get excited about a 320-pound nose tackle. I love Aleem McNeil. I'm a sucker for that.
I love it.
I love the interior pet. One of my favorite Lions of all time is Sean Rogers. The big, beefy defensive tackle. The year that he was healthy and motivated, he was one of the best defensive tackles I've ever seen. He only had 1 year of that, unfortunately. McNeil's got a shot at being
that year, man.
Yeah, 2008 was glorious. We didn't have much back then. We had Sean Rogers.
We got our kicker and our
yeah. So I'm excited to see what Aleem McNeil can do in a 4-man front and moving around, because he is way too quick for the beefy centers and guards to handle. And I'm again. It's weird to be excited about a nose tackle. I really like Aleem McNeil.
I love it. You can be excited about nose tackles all you want on my show. I love it. Why don't you give me a record prediction? Call your shot here, and then let everyone know where they can find you. Thank you so much for coming on. I could probably talk to you all night.
Oh yeah, well we should talk sometime. And you live close by, so we're gonna have to coordinate that.
We can go to one of the Detroit Lions wins. We'll be at
that would be fantastic. So I did the schedule game after when the schedule came out. I got to 7 and 10.
I love it.
I in looking at the schedule, it's really easy to see 8 and 9, and I think 7, 10, 8 and 9 is right where they are. If good fortune strikes, they can be better than that, but that's like. As the late great Chuck Daly once said, the coach of the Pistons, a pessimist is an optimist with experience. That's being a Lions fan with some experience. I can't expect them to achieve what they could, but they're going to achieve better than what they have been. And as for where to find my stuff, LionsWire online. You can check out the Twitter as the LionsWire. You can check out my Twitter, Jeff Risdon, Risdon. It's really easy to spell and say. You can go on it and find it. I post stuff all the time. I don't take days off. I get really anxious when I don't work, so I'm a little weird like that. So you will see a lot of weird content from me, and I have a lot of fun with it. In the Detroit Lions podcast, we are actually taking a week off next week, ironically enough. That's the first week we've had off since last July.
He swears he does not work nonstop.
I know, but we tend to record every Wednesday night, and we will have some pre-recorded stuff, a couple mailbags and things like that.
That's cool. With that too. And those shows are a blast. Definitely check them out. This is a team that you want to keep your eyes on. I am rooting for the Detroit Lions now that I am, what is it, a Michigander? How do you
Michigander.
I'm a Michigander now down here in Grand Rapids, but this is a pleasure. We'll have to I think I might have to do a recap with everyone maybe halfway through the season or something, because this has been a blast. Sure. But I'll be hitting the Bears on Monday with Adam Rank. 3 p.m.
Oh, Adam's good. I like Adam. Tell Adam I said hey.
Yeah, it should be good. I've got some great guests with the NFC North. It's going to be a tough act to follow. But again, thanks, guys, so much. Be sure to check out Jeff's stuff and go Detroit. I'm pumped for you guys.